webinar. My name is Grażyna Strolia, and I'll be your host. Begin shortly. There are still some people joining the webcast. Please by clicking on the link in your invitation. We're waiting for everyone to join us. Waiting for people to join us. Thank you for taking the time to learn about Agility and DevOps. Today's webinar comes to you from Mar Labs, an award-winning IT services leader that has helped a number of enterprises along their Agile and DevOps journeys. During the event will be Balaji, who heads our enterprise architecture practice. Joining him is Shiva, who runs our QA services, and Srijit manages our enterprise cloud offerings. Raj, who leads marketing, will provide a quick introduction to Mar Labs. This webcast is about how Agile and DevOps are serving as stepping stones to digital transformation and how they're coming together for delivering better software faster and at lower cost. You can listen to an action-packed presentation, live demo, and panel discussion. Please feel free to use the chat tab to enter your questions at any time. We will take them at the end of the event. I'll pass this over to Raj.
This is Raj for taking the time to join us today. I have a very quick introduction to Labs, and I promise not to stand in the way of the event. As you can see, we are about 2,500 people, company in Piscataway, Jersey, and we've won a bunch of awards, and we have service offerings across industry verticals. We have services that cut across a number of horizontal areas, application infrastructure, IT infrastructure, information security, and so on, across technology blocks, as you can see below. So now I will pass this on to Balaji.
Raj, good afternoon, everyone. My name is Balaji Bardalwar. I'm heading the Enterprise Architecture Services at Mar Labs. The topic today is Agile and DevOps, how it's a stepping stone to digital transformation. So let's spend a moment on what is digital transformation. It's addressing new type of customer behaviors. What are customer behaviors? Let's do that. So today, digital world, there are online with the IT, so and connected networking. Now needs to adapt and evolve with this digitalization. Growth is fueled by delivering existing content services to across all the platforms. There are various platforms, and also individual platforms needs to be optimized, to give right content. Now, with this digital transformation, constant change is there. This is the new thing, constant change. In traditional, largely focuses on business, technology, and operations. However, to enable digital transformation, there needs to be a focus on development. When we it comes the whole software lifecycle, management. This last part of the puzzle, which is the development, with the digital transformation, Agile DevOps helps the both. Let's look at how it helps. So see in the diagram, there is a development operations. The main is how the development, which consists of both Agile and DevOps, and the need of the the current transformation. So traditionally, business used to stand apart from the development with the Agile. It was the collaboration between business and development. And development team work with the operations to resolve the DevOps, which is brings the automation, reliable, quality software deploying to different environments and platforms quickly and efficiently. We will look at the details in the upcoming slides. So let's quickly to different methodologies, development methodologies, which is in focus. First of all, the requirements are logged in, and then design starts. In your larger programs, like it takes anywhere between 3 months to 1 year, and some cases we have seen for 2 years as well. Once code is developed, it's tested and deployed to production. The problem with this approach is when the business need changes, there are change requests coming in, and our customer behavior changes. While this process is not agile to accommodate new requests or new behavior changes, not be able to speed the changes and deliver quickly to the market, the business value to the market. That is where Agile helps to deliver meaningful, viable product to the market. So what is in big of code is divided into smaller increments, and then that is tested and delivered to the customers as software in a small. So it is customer see the small, which is the minimal product, and they also align the customer behavior and they keep evolving that into incremental phases until the final product is delivered. Now, then, so Agile DevOps means how to improve software quality. With the Agile software quality, operational quality was not incorporated. With the DevOps, things the software engineering practices, also operational attributes in this. So what that is, when we deliver the minimum viable product, it also adds the operational content like availability, scalability, performance, all those aspects yearly. That way, when the end product is delivered, it not only meets the business values and also it performs as it is expected. Now, the different Agile and the continuous integration, delivery, DevOps, because terminology everywhere. I think we'll spend few minutes to understand what that means. Talk about Agile development, which brings visibility for the and the development team to work together in collaboration, adapting, and reduces the risk for the business. Integration. What that brings the development team together, it brings discipline to the software engineering. It makes the quality of the code tested by the developers before it is delivered to the QA, like staging and production environments. It addresses the quality of the code, like in the testing aspects. So as continuous delivery, it automates the testing behaviors like functional, non-functional, performance, all those aspects, automating that, and then deploying to the environment as needed. Now, there is a difference between continuous deployment and continuous delivery. I think you may hear that in the industry. So what is continuous continuous deployment means whether the code is good or bad, that gets delivered quickly, efficiently, automated way. Whereas with the continuous delivery, the quality of the code is good, and that is delivered to the environments and to the customers. Now, DevOps. DevOps includes the operational aspects. So what if you have performance, scalability, availability, all those aspects are considered during the planning stage itself. So the operational teams work with the business and development team very early, and ensure that there are no surprises when the software is deployed into production. That is comes into the picture. So let's move to next slide, DevOps benefits. About delivering the value yearly, which is a really important one. Like with the DevOps, delivering a viable product quickly to customers, speed time to market, and then shorten the QA cycles because of the automation and increases the team collaboration. Everyone in the team is like happy, including business, operation, and development team. Let's look at what Agile enterprise world. In your organization, your project can detail and DevOps implementations. However, in a larger organizations, there are multiple business products, multiple programs, multiple projects. So how to ensure the organization matures in delivering the development aspects of it? How do we the common frameworks, tools that relate to DevOps standard across the project? As per our experience at Labs, these are the pillars for enterprises to do Agile and DevOps: plan, test, run, and feedback. Details, a bit more details, like some of the subcomponents. I'm not planning to spend more time individually, just to highlight what are the subcomponents involved in each of those. So plan is part of the and the portfolio focuses on how the different projects work together and what are the different program strategies, and the next products on how they're managed, how the requirements are backlog management, prioritized, and pushed into the architecture and design. Next, design focuses on the reference architectures, analyzing the tool sets, blueprints, including the UI UX designs, and for the new projects to consume quickly. Rather than individual projects making their own decision, they take the decision for the project and making sure the adhere to the standards. This is a development team, the team that codes focus, where the quality of the code is checked. How do we get the peer reviews? How do we make sure the coding by the developers are continuously built, integrated? How configuration principles are applied, whether it's a web server, DB server, operating system. Also, how do we deliver these build pages to different environments? Is the testing. As part of there are integration, functional and non-functional. These aspects cover how to enable the common frameworks enabling the projects to deliver QA quickly. The next, the run. This is the operational component. How do we plan the releases, and also how do we deploy the quality code to different environments on anytime needed, and service operations with the monitoring, alerting, the backups and recovery, quick recovery, payments. All these aspects are considered in the service operations. The last one is the feedback, which is really important for enterprises to mature in Agile and DevOps area. Dashboard able to monitor the quality aspects, the metrics that's required for other components. Not only monitor, learn from it, share knowledge across the teams, and then use knowledge and skills to tune, because the technology keep evolving. If you look into every 3 months we see the new technology, whether it's open source or .NET or mobile, the technology keeps evolving. So there needs to be a focus to fine-tune this DevOps machine. It's not like a one-time, you build the DevOps and then done with that. It needs ongoing fine-tuned. What is the MATLAB's framework for enterprise DevOps machine? There are to enable organization. One is start with the project, learn from it, and implement. The other approach is look into the organization, and then see what are the different type of technologies used, and then see the commonalities across it, and then develop it as a seeing here is there are different, each is part of the subcomponents that we saw earlier. So what each will have its own tools, processes, frameworks, and new projects come in and on that. They come in and pick up based on the technologies. They would pick what are these tools required, what are the required, what are the processes required. It's already pre-built, ready for them, and then straight away go and start working on the business logic, which is important for the development. So let's look into one part, which is the QA wheel as an example. Project 1 kicks off, and there will be a initial onboarding as part of this mission, where technology, let's say if it is a web-based or mobility, what type of framework is required in the QA component. That, for example, if it is a mobility, whether to use the Appium or any other frameworks, and also we test the authentication in the mobile world. So all these frameworks are really available, and also when the defects are found, logging into the other component, whether it's a Jira or any other bug tracking systems, and managing that automatically. It's available by a component. That is just one example of QA we talked about. Like that, there is a built-in packaging. Each wheel, it's an area on its own. So probably we'll see some of these wheels, how it is operating in the demo. Moving on, okay, we'll look into the demo in the next few minutes. Now, measure the success of this, mission. Having a DevOps is good, like Agile and DevOps, but how do we measure, monitor, and fine-tune? Seeing on the screen is some of the parameters that we typically use in the areas like product and project management, development. Development is a methodology, or any other methodology use. QA. What are the metrics that we can use for each? These are all for each of the wheels we have defined. This is not an exhaustive list, but some of the key parameters we have defined here. Next one, code management and deployment management. Given that time constraint, I wouldn't be able to go through each of them in detail, but we would be covering in the upcoming month each of the areas in detail. Next, in the industry, there are new tool sets coming in, new technology for development as well as for agile management. So we talked about the mission. We talked about people, process, and technology. So what are the tool sets required for each of the area? That's the list you are seeing here. This is an exhaustive list. Again, based on MARLab's experience, if you look into QA, for example, let's pick one QA automation tool for mobile testing. Experience in C-Test, Appium, Xamarin Cloud for both grid and native testings. We have different areas, and then different type of tools that we have used. Not to say this is the tool, definitive tool list. It's just that where used often. Code management and release and deployment. As you can see, there is plenty of development IDs and testing tools available. The important note is we have implemented, including the database automation as well. Moving to the next part, which is a CI/CD demo. Okay, just to give we talked about there are too many technologies available outside, and just to give you a demo of one technology, what we chose was in a typical .NET environment, what would look like in a CI/CD, and we implemented that in the demo. So let's quickly look into each of those. Web control, this focus on how your code is shared, stored and shared between developers in a version system, and in this case, we used Git. And then how it is tested by the developers themselves. Before it goes to QA, how do we make sure quality code is delivered to QA to reduce the QA cycle time? So in-unit test, and also we used SonarQube to peer reviewing, and also for the static testing, and also to make sure code compliance is there. And then the next aspect is, how do we do automatically build and package? So how do we kick off like every day or every couple of hours when first checking the correct applicable code? Then how do we make sure we build it that other developers can from the TeamCity and Redgate. Redgate is for database automation. In this case, let's use the SQL Server for this purposes. We need to move from developers checking into the source code control system with the Git, and to move it through other ends from dev to QA to stage to production through the pipeline. And Puppet for two purposes: environment and also for configuration management. Configuration is an interesting area because whether a big gap, there are app servers and middleware, and whether it's authentication, security, or the host names, the configuration are captured in your source control, and making sure what environment it is, and released through Puppet. Puppet is that we chose, but we also have experience with other tools. But in this demo, Puppet. And then some tools you wouldn't see that in the demo, but because they are all working behind the scenes. But to walk through as we go along in the video, we have a short video to look in. And finally, used Octopus to push build packages, tested packages into different environments. I jump onto the demo, which is the next slide. I just like to focus on what is the typical process and what we used in this demo. So demo, developer modifying the code just to show that there's a failure in the unit test, and also there's a success in the unit test. Then what happens is automatically builds, and we have a case where build fails, and developer it, and then it goes through the automatic trigger, checking into the source code, testing, and releasing to a common development environment. The interesting part is used a sample application, and in here the version is being changed from 39 to 40, and we are using Visual Studio and repository, integrated Git repository. Comments in there. It's always a good idea to give some appropriate comments to look at what's been changed. Not only is it synced into the local and also to the master, it's synchronized. Seeing here is a TeamCity, and what it does is it looks for any changes into the Git repository and automatically triggers the build. We have configured trigger the build every 1 minute, so probably you would see the build to trigger in a short time, for in 10-20 seconds. Yeah, there are integrations we can do as part of. I think the demo picked it up. One. TeamCity building package, and in this case, it's a successful scenario you are watching, and we have steps coming for failure scenario as well. Because it's recorded the live, there will be small delays in refreshing the pages or time taking to build. Please. But I think it's worth looking at the real integrated demo. So what now is the Octopus. What happened was, if I have to go through the sequence, TeamCity built it and then created the package, and then it kicked off the deployment. The deployment using Octopus, it kicked off deploying the development environment. So what we're going to see is we are going to our development environment, refresh the page to make sure the new version is visible. You know, the initial slide, you saw lots of tools listed there, but all working behind the scenes, including the testing mechanisms, including the database automation. They all work behind the scenes. That is the power of DevOps. Once it is done properly, what you see is all the complexities are hidden, and projects come in and use this automation to do all the way to from development to other environments. So, in the page is refreshing to show you the version. It's also highlighting that you saw like there is a release pipeline. So what is like based on the roles, when you are a developer, then you would have access to pushing to development environment. Kicks in up to releasing to dev, and then say like a QA team wants to look into it and they don't want automatically pushed to QA, then they come into the Octopus tool and look at the release versions, and then push of a button they can get the latest code. So if someone is manager, they want to move this particular version, they can click off a button. Everything behind the scenes in configurations. What you're seeing here in this is including the configuration part moves in environments. So the is built, you tested, and then functionally tested, config, all done with the click of a button. What we now bear with us now, like is how do we enable the communication with the team? Okay, right. But how do we know that what is built, what is a success or failure? So what you're seeing now, like when the code is built, it is going to send a mail to all the development team, which is again configurable. And the code is tested. You would see, you know, the thing reports will be given to different teams, and then when the code is deployed, again, you can contact people to receive the you know, messages like success or failure. So different levels of communication, and you can always like so. The important thing is like define the roles and responsibilities when someone goes through this transition. Who should be receiving what? It's all clear, defined upfront, and when project comes, we don't need to think about like the process side of things. What you do now, like talking in this demo, we are just making to fail. We're just commenting to build fail. So in this case, developer checked in and the incorrect code. So it is in the master, so it's a fail. We are like at the end of the day, developers going in a rush and then checking the code. And what happens is if somebody like deploy that into an environment, the next day it's going to be a nightmare. So to solve that, here TeamCity, the build is going to fail. What you're going to see is it's going to fail. Yep, kicked off. What you, yeah, every 60 seconds, and it is trying to now. The good thing about this kind of tools, it also not only its automation and also like a debugging, time to debug. Tools will exactly like where it failed, which class and which line of code failed, why it failed. Like, and you can see what there is a return value is missing, and it hides it, and it will be like, you know, sent to like whoever is subscribed to, like, you know, development manager and also to the whole team. So this ensures that the developers or test, or even they check in, they are testing themselves before they can. Otherwise, it's going to be like, you know, shaming, you know, the developer. What we are trying to show is like there are different things you can configure, follow the enterprise the standards comes in, like how do we do the bills and how do we do the how do we do numbering, who should be involved, should be, what are the questions, what are the different points, all these things can be configured. And add number of steps, whether it's a successful, completely successful, or failure, and logging the defects directly into tracking systems. It's all integrated. So, for example, if there is a failure in a test case, these tools can automatically create a ticket in the defect track systems. So what you're seeing here is real that what you saw in the earlier concepts. So we just have a few groups for people just for the demo purposes. You can have individuals and configure different communication settings. Next part of this demo, we will be looking into just a small test case, how the test case is integrated. So what you're seeing here is we have a small automation using the Selenium, and just for again with the short time in mind, we just bring it and we would like to show how the test report is delivered, and so the QA team, when they can look into it, how many of them passed or failed. So there is time spent by QA team. All they have to do is just verify the reports. I think great advantages of this complete Agile and DevOps build. Which takes a little bit longer with the automation. I think 19 test cases included in this, if I remember right. End of it, we'll just show the auto test report sent via email, and then that will conclude the demo. So probably we are a minute away from that. Seeing here is the automated test run is successful, refreshing, and then there you go. Just the report was executed, and the number of scenarios passed or failed. You can look into that. That concludes the demo part, and we will move on to the next section in the agenda, which is a discussion by Siva, Srijit, and myself. Over to Siva, who is going to anchor this panel discussion.
Thank you, Balaji, for the session so far, and also for the demo. I hope it's helpful. And we're going to start the panel discussion. And as Balaji said, it's going to be with me, Shiva, and Srijit, and also with Balaji. In a couple topics, just to talk about as part of the panel discussion. Let me start with, now that we have seen the demo, how Agile and DevOps work together, and how they all, what are the benefits, some of the benefits. It's still, pass me up always, and how we think about DevOps fitting into the entire digital transformation. Srijit has experience around the topic. Srijit, why don't you just shed some light around that? And DevOps could, fit into the digital transformation.
Sure. Thanks, Shiva. Good afternoon, everyone. So everyone is talking about digital, and it's a kind of digital washing everywhere. And enterprises are doing just DevOps, and they're doing digital transformation. And the question is, digital transformation DevOps, or is this enough for digital transformation? No, because we need to paint a bigger canvas for a digital transformation. And when when to start thinking about the transformation. What is the point? And we need a situation where your traditional business is actually getting used by a startup who is a disruptor, and they're fundamentally challenging your business, and what to address the competition and stay relevant in the market. That is, you think like them. You need to think like a startup. And more big organizations, it is a huge challenge. And start with the customer experience and work backward to use the digital tools and latest technologies to help to increase customer engagement or customer experience, and also continuously analyze and learn and adapt those customer requirements. So we can say that we have a transformation place, and definitely be driven by business, and they have to take the driving seat, and the business has to focus on the road all the time. And challenge here, we have seen organizations where business folks are so tech savvy, and technology teams are not able to see the big picture in the business side, and some of the organizations are creating a role, digital officer, who is kind of middleman and who is working between business and the technology teams. And seen the CDOs are driving those digital initiatives. So challenge, but as I mentioned, Agile principle and DevOps can partially issue because they bring the and technology teams together. So definitely Agile and DevOps are the stones. We can always start small with a DevOps project, start ordering the low-hanging fruits, and benefit and talk with the business and take it forward. So this is a step one, and I believe that we can use DevOps to do the transformation.
Sure. So Balaji, after the demo, some of the things, right? What are your learnings from your past about the DevOps transformation? What are some of the challenges? How did we overcome? And what are your recommendations around that?
Sure. I think there are two areas I'd like to address. One is how to do this Agile and DevOps transformation for enterprises, learning from our experiences. Second part is the transition, how do we make a successful transition to the teams, support DevOps. So coming to the first part, the challenge and Agile is we have seen the constant evaluation of the industry with the technology. Especially we have moved from developing our own code base in an industry to using the PaaS as well as the SaaS models, where the questions are being asked, do all these components, if you use SaaS, that's the benefit of SaaS. What are these components of DevOps is applicable to the SaaS? I think that clarity is not there in an organization. And this is where as we need to look into, we accept that there are to be more than one platform. There are more than one delivery methodology, and the base is right, and build all this Agile and DevOps enablement as a. So what this is, if we have 13 components that we saw earlier, instead of building all at once, look at the enterprise and then see what are the commonly used technologies, or what are the commonly used products that as a business widely used, which is taking time. So where is the investment? And focus on that, and then start with that, and then you can slowly building the other wheels to make it as a bigger wheel. So the learning is probably start with small, what is important, and keep improving rather than taking a big bang approach. Then the smart is the with DevOps. Agile DevOps is a new piece. That means cultural change for the organization. After taking away work from a development team or testing team. It's about using the time efficiently. And important bit is there needs to be a separate focus for the DevOps, and their focus is how do we keep building DevOps capability, and they have to be be part of it. Like let's say organizations like IT providers like us coming in and doing the enterprise transformation. What's seen is that the team that is going to handle it once we have built it and then transition are not ready. So the needs to be planned upfront when we enable it, and the team is ready, and then they can just keep continuing and constantly evolving by the team itself.
Right.
Yeah.
Another thing I want to add, the concept is really good. We can always start with the one and improvise and
add more components as needed.
Mm-hmm. But it's also important to have a big picture from the very beginning. Otherwise, when the complex projects are coming into the machine, we will be spending a lot of time in tinkering the machine itself.
Yeah, you would end up changing a lot of architecture changes, which is not good for the other projects that are already been leveraging the machine.
So if it's a roadblock, then projects they will start blaming the DevOps guys. The machine is not working, and those kind of. We have seen that. So
that's right. Even there is any error in the operations, we have seen blaming DevOps is not working as opposed to fixing the right component by the teams. So yes, the roles and responsibilities need to be very clear in this case. I agree with that point. So
sure, that's a good discussion. Thank you. We about DevOps as an overall, but some of the elements that typically get ignored is one of the important aspects is security. So Srijit, what's your take on security? How does security fit in this entire DevOps machine?
Sure, that's an interesting point, Shiva. We're having the DevOps and Agile, and we have high velocity stuff running. We will be focusing on throwing as many releases to the production gate, and we may need to focus on the security, which is a very critical part. So there's no point in throwing secure code or package to production. Always have the security, embedded the whole process. So we need to have at least one assessment on the whole, in the product from the beginning, and also from the QA testing aspect. I can explain more on the QA testing and the role of QA in the security testing.
Sure, Srijit. Before I talk about the role of security testing, I want to add points around the QA role in the DevOps. A part covered by Balaji, but I want to add a few more points around that. My experience for the last couple of years, when with DevOps being used, the role of QA is kind of going on. It's more about releasing or deploying quickly and delivering product, at the doorstep, pretty quickly. So the process is more about fast. So whatever is low-hanging fruit, whatever they think is not really essential, is being tend to ignored. And fortunately, QA is one of those aspects. Some organizations, I need the release to happen in a week. So if QA is the last day, maybe let's cut it down and just move on to releasing it, right? So that's one thing that it's not only quality. When you release a product fast, that doesn't mean that it is a quality product. It is a product for sure, but it's not necessarily a quality product. Obviously, when you fix a defect in production, that's much more costlier than fixing something in QA environment, right? So I would say that quality, stability, and security are three most important factors, along with the entire DevOps operations, that should not be ignored or forgotten.
Yep.
But with QA being taken back, how it has to get improved and how it has to be given priority is obviously to make QA integrate as much as possible with development and the whole operations. And the easiest way to do it is having more automation, or as much as possible. And I personally representing QA from a long time, I know that it's not possible for automating everything. 100% automation is definitely not possible. At the same time, there is a value in doing close to 100% automation. And how do it. There are quite a lot of tools in the market, but permanently just make yourself having some set of framework available that you can scale up and then have projects run across. So you have a common platform, you customize that for your project needs as needed, and that's a way to start with. But beyond that, there are a couple other factors that you can look at is deployment to QA is something that that being automated and that should be automated. Meaning there are like a lot of the deployment used to take a day or two. It is a real process, but with a lot of ops tools and being in place, that can be reduced to click of a button. So that's one way to cut short the time frame by the time QA gets into it. Yeah. And also you have to look at it more from a testing it more for small tests. Of course you got to go with line by line requirement, but at the same time you got to promote quite a lot around the exhaustive testing, sorry, not necessarily exhaustive testing, but around exploratory testing where you focus quite a lot here and there, not necessarily based on requirements, but of course testing covered as part of that, but more about that. And another aspect is to involve or bring in a culture to do a lot of parallel testing. A lot of tools facilitate that, but it's important that with parallel testing, running across multiple browsers, multiple operating systems, multiple devices, that cuts down the time that's needed for QA. So these are some of the ways you can bring QA right up front and make sure QA is part of it. But to answer your point around the security, it's just important that security, if not every sprint, it has to be in the entire release, it has to be in place. Maybe make use of Veracode or tools like Veracode where it does some static analysis patterns, including security or some other elements. That as a means performance and security, doing some rounds here and there, maybe once in 2 weeks, once in 2 sprints, maybe a couple sprints once in a while. But it's very important that security is not ignored and has to be tested.
Yeah. So one more I want to add here is typically DevOps security is actually their enemy. So they don't have a place in the book. So it's very important to bring them also to the table and work collaboratively. Otherwise, we will have surprises. So we have seen security is a critical piece of the puzzle.
You covered how QA gets benefit with the DevOps automations. Can you touch upon how the Agile QA? What are the changes plays the role in terms of what are the dynamics on the QA with Agile?
Sure. With Agile, a lot of companies have been doing Agile, or at least they think they have been doing Agile, and some with mixed flavor, and some they're successful in doing that. But again, it's all about things different. You end up doing the same activities, but it's doing things differently. And of course, the aspects that we talked about around earlier was automation, bringing in automation aspects, and if you have something like test-driven development or behavioral-driven development, which are very common in Agile workshops, there are some of the ways you can actually get benefit out of it and integrate along with continuous integration delivery as an Agile part of it. But predominantly, when you look at Agile in a QA, that brings in a lot of different flavor, and a pretty important flavor is that for example, if you are looking at defect logging, in a traditional waterfall way, defect logging is more like you get a defect, you get it reviewed by your business team and make sure yes or no, and then hand it over to the development team, and then development fixes it, comes back to you. So it's like a whole workflow. And of course, I agree with the workflow, but at the same time, when after introducing Agile and bringing in, you can cut down quite a lot. You just go onto the team and say, hey, I have a defect. What some of the ways, why it has come in the first place, and after being it's a good defect or whether it's a valid defect or not. You just discuss with the development teams to make sure it's a valid defect, and here are the ways to stop it. Then go back and report it. So you end up doing the same activities, but at the same time you could cut short a lot of time with the workflow that you end up seeing in waterfallish, and that can rightly fit in as an enabler for QA in the DevOps. So definitely this is
That's a good point.
That said, considering the time that we have and also some of the topics that we covered, maybe it's a good time probably to conclude the panelist discussion.
Okay. All right, this marks the conclusion of the presentation. At this time, we will take up your questions. If you've already done so, please go ahead and use the chat tab to enter your question. We have received quite a few, so please bear with us if we are not able to handle your specific question.
Sure, I will, questions that we have here is, has to trigger a digital transformation in an enterprise? Is it business or the tech teams?
Yeah, so, you mentioned some cases, business, they may not have the latest technology, know-how, and sometimes tech teams try to drive the transformation, and businesses, they don't understand the value. So always it's a challenging situation, and I think that the business should take the ownership, and they should see the opportunity in the you can use the latest technologies and change your business, transform your business to be relevant in the market, and you have to invest a significant amount of time to the transformation. Typically, they cannot throw something to the development and come back after 1 month and where it is standing. So they drive it, and they have to invest quite time for drive transformation.
Thanks, Rajat. The next question: how can you measure return on investment for DevOps? Balaji, do you wanna?
Yeah, it's an interesting question. DevOps brings quite a bit of efficiency, whether it's the code management, testing, and all those aspects. So what's important is define the metrics, measure it, and to get a baseline to start with. Before we start the digital transformation with Agile and DevOps, get the how it is done today, and then next to this, each of that is going through, measure how the automation has helped, how whether it's the time or cost, how it went through, and then keep measuring to see through that future projects are going through far more efficiently and higher velocity is reached. Now, how to attribute to this question is what are the quality attributes of the DevOps solution that can enable the good guy? Probably I would list in a few. One of them is the set of tool sets that is validated, because in this digital world, multiple tools in play. Whether it's even in DevOps, we saw in just for CI/CD, we saw 8-9 tools there, and when you look into the whole of DevOps, there are 4 tools there. So choose the well-integrated ecosystem rather than spending your time going writing an adaptive by itself. Just to select the right appropriate ecosystem, well integrated. That's one thing. The second one is use the built-in tools the SaaS platform. For example, control or quality. There are tons of available in the SaaS-based offering. So rather than as an organization buying and installing it, trying to configure it, rather start the DevOps so that the return on investment is quicker using the tools straight away. Probably the third one I would say is select the resources are available, to continue supporting the tools. I think those are the 3 that I would point out.
I just want to add one point here. So in theory, there's a lot of discussion happening in the data to measure the ROI or see the early benefit of DevOps is a stupid thing. We cannot have a measure ROI for a DevOps transformation project. But customers we engage, they want to see some early benefits. So we have to show some metrics to see whatever investment they are making to build this machine, and they're seeing those benefits early, maybe in 2 to 3 weeks in the journey. So we have metrics which Balaji, going through, and definitely those metrics can be measured even from the second week onwards in terms of velocity of deployment or reduce